Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday, and all of our guests today brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox, just before we get to Farhan, a lot of people, some of them unsigned, Tanti should be up there, should be in the Ring of Honor.
Absolutely he should be.
Canucks defeat the Lightning 4-1 at Rogers Arena. Farhan Lalji was there, and he joins us now. Farhan, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good, gentlemen. What's going on with you guys?
Well, we're talking Canucks, and Jim Rutherford is going to you're the warm-up act for Jim Rutherford. He's going to join us in the next segment.
Well, you guys are getting all the big hitters, right? You had Tocchet on, you got Rutherford on. I'm just a minor league act. But I read his comments today in Patrick Johnson's column, and he some good insight. I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say on your show.
Yeah, I read. He's making the rounds. I read that as well, Farhan. Okay, you were there last night. Your takeaway from a Canuck win against a still very good Tampa team.
Well, first of all, I wasn't there. I was there in the morning, but I did watch every minute of the game. And nonetheless, I was impressed, right? I was impressed, especially with how they played in the second period of that game and the way they were able to bounce back. They had the early deficit. But I thought that, in terms of game flow and their overall process, even when they wound up taking those penalties again back-to-back, I was really impressed with how they responded. And, they're getting contributions from everybody in the lineup right now. They're getting depth scoring, and whether it's in this game or whether it's in the last game, and even if they're not scoring, you're noticing all four lines a little bit more than we have in the past. So I like the way their game is trending, and really even in the last couple of losses before this final 3-game win streak has been put together here, I think they're headed in a pretty good direction. And, for me, what's just been so impressive about their play of late is even when they believe they're not on top of their game, they're still able to get some results and tread water, and that hadn't happened in previous years.
Jim Rutherford's going to join us in the next segment, as I mentioned. He was hired by the Canucks 2 years ago this month, and we asked this question yesterday for our Bet99.net poll question. Do you think he's lived up to expectations?
I think so, right? And I think he was brought in really challenging circumstances because, the cap was an absolute mess that he inherited from Jim Benning, right? I mean, just so many mistakes made year after year after year. I think one day you might need to put up some sort of poll question about worst Vancouver sports executive, right? Jim Benning or Stu Jackson, because it was like that level of mess. And he said at the time he was going to – that's actually a pretty good question. I think that might be something you should do right away.
I'm writing it down as we speak.
Henderson, get on it. But truthfully, when you look at the fact that he talked about what a complicated, knot that it was that he had to kind of unwind, and he hasn't completely got there yet, but they've made big strides in terms of how they've unraveled the cap, right? And there's going to be some pain in years 3 and 4 of the OEL deal, the buyout, I should say, but he's made some significant moves here. Now, then when you also wind up getting value from a player like Brock Boeser. And maybe that was Rick Tocchet making him understand, what was needed of him and holding a level of accountability to him. And now we're seeing him play where he's living up to the contract. So that's not an inefficient deal anymore, right? So when you put the totality of it together, I think, it's absolutely a win. Could he have handled certain things better, whether it was the Tanner Pearson thing or how things went down with Bruce Boudreau when they did, even though it was the right decision, but just kind of how it went down. There's a lot. Sure, there's some things that weren't perfect, but overall, I've got to give him a B+ to an A in terms of what he's done to this point.
Well, if you're handing out letter grades, I think Brock Boeser deserves an A as well. 21 goals, 29 games, tied for the NHL lead in goals. And I was telling Donnie, it was 12 months ago his agent was going to help facilitate a trade. And here he is on top of the world 12 months later. What a change up and down for Boeser in 12 months.
Amazing. It really is amazing. And a year ago when we were talking about the trade, I think there was kind of some people in the marketplace that felt that from a media perspective, we were trying to kick Brock Boeser to the curb. And that really wasn't the case. I think all of us who had a chance to deal with him and get to know him felt a level of sympathy or empathy towards what he was dealing with. And when you look at everything he had, in terms of what he went through with his father and his health, and Brock's own injury history and just everything he was going through, if Brock Boeser at the time felt he needed a change of scenery, I think we all felt for him and said, okay, well, if you need that, then let's get it, because you wish the player would have success, as opposed to, a Louis Eriksson where we kind of rolled our eyes every time, anything happened. Like, I think there was a different feeling around Brock Boeser. Everybody liked him. Everybody wanted him to find a pathway to success. And if that meant a change of scenery, well, okay, we hope the best for you. Whereas, now, even he admitted at the end of the year that probably the best thing to happen to him was to not get traded, because he does have a level of investment with the people on this team, and he genuinely likes them and they like him. So, why do you want to get moved? And now that he's, made the commitment he did this offseason to training and changing the way he trained, and just being another 12 months removed from everything he went through with his father, we're now finally seeing the best of Brock Boeser. So I think it's fantastic to see, because he is a good kid and a great person in that room, and I'm happy to see him have success.
All right, let's go to the NFL. A week ago today, we thought Canadian Nathan Rourke might have a chance to play Sunday, or at least, dress and all that stuff. Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain Monday, plays 6 days later. Canucks players get high ankle sprains, they're out for weeks. What's going on here? How does he play 6 days later?
Yeah, it probably wasn't that serious, right? I mean, when we saw him that night, when I looked at the injury and kind of which way the ankle rolled, it didn't seem to me like it was the typical thing that leads to a high ankle sprain. I actually thought he fractured his ankle, right? So I'm not saying I didn't think the injury was serious. It just felt like, in terms of where the bend happened, that it's not necessarily in line with what you see visually from other high ankle sprains. So obviously the injury wasn't as serious as everybody first thought, because not all high ankle sprains are created equally. He actually moved around quite well. He wasn't just kind of hanging there in the pocket. There was some movement to his game. So unfortunate for Nathan he didn't get in. Good for him that he was at least in uniform and was able to get full salary. I think that's going to happen again this week, because the fact that Nathan yesterday, as of 4 p.m., hadn't been released to get moved to the practice roster, that means they have to pay him full salary this week regardless of what they do. So if that's the case, there's probably no downside to keeping him on the active roster and dressing him as a 49th player. But look, he's not going to play anytime soon in Jacksonville. My hope for him is that he's learned a lot about the NFL, that he had great tape from the preseason, and finds himself in a better position next year in the NFL, in terms of, I know why he went to Jacksonville this year. You can agree or disagree. But next year, I would imagine he's going to go to a place that has a bit more of a volatile quarterback situation, and will bet on himself and hope that he can get a Tommy DeVito type of opportunity. Because when you look at some of the guys in the league that are undrafted free agents and getting those opportunities this year, Nathan Rourke is better. And I hope he finds himself in that situation next year in the NFL.
You were in Dallas for the Cowboys' 33-13 dismantling of the Eagles. Very quickly, Farhan, who is the best 10-3 team in the NFC? Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers.
Yeah, I still think it's the 49ers. The Cowboys the Eagles are going to have the easiest schedule, so they have the opportunity to still win the NFC East, because they've got the tiebreakers over Dallas. But I think Seattle can beat them this week. I'm not surprised Seattle went 0-4. I think they can go 4-0 the rest of the way, which includes a win over Philly. The best team in the NFL right now is the San Francisco 49ers. They are loaded. They're on top of their game. And as much as I like what Dallas is doing, I don't think they're getting past San Francisco in an NFC title game.
You touched on this, but Philadelphia and Seattle Monday. Farhan, thanks for this. Appreciate it.
I'm going to Hawaii, guys, today. I was hoping to do this tomorrow from the beach. Maybe next week we'll do it from the beach. All right, guys?
The lifestyles of
shirt off the whole bit. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Thanks, Farhan. Appreciate it.
Hey, Randorf and I were talking about your Hall of Fame induction. That's all he wanted to know when he came yesterday. So you're a big deal, Donnie.
Tell him thanks for the phone call.
Yeah.
And the invitation to lunch. Thanks, Farhan. Appreciate it.